Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of CK Breakdown. Once again, this episode I would like to do in English because I want to get into some technical concept that I think I'll be better and more clear in the English language because my Thai is freaking terrible. Anyway, it's that time of the year again where earnings reports are coming out. When earnings reports are coming out, that means that a lot of the companies are filing their earnings report for basically the 10K, the Q4 result from 2022. So I want to break down some key concept of what I've learned from the past earnings results and what I learned from the market. One is that the first company I want to talk about is Netflix. I think Netflix earning reports look incredibly promising. A couple of facts in the report is that, they mentioned that they're still the leader in the streaming business by in number of subs, revenue, and profit by a wide margin. So they're competitive, whether it's Disney Plus, Hulu, have been struggling to keep up with Netflix in terms of those aspects of the metrics. And what Netflix produced last year, Wednesday, was the third most popular film in history for Netflix. Harry and Meghan was the second most popular documentary in Netflix ever. Tro is most popular non-English film. Glass Onion, fourth most popular film. These are all made last year by Netflix. It's incredible. It's simply incredible how Netflix are able to do it without any IP. We all thought that Disney was gonna be this big behemoth, right? Because Disney has all these IP, whether if it's Marvel, Disney character, Disney princess, and they have all these IPs. But Netflix, which a company that doesn't own anything, they consistently create original that are breaking record. It's incredible. And they're able to do all these shows literally just last year. So Netflix has been showing that they're a creative genius and they are, in terms of production, in terms of consistency, in terms of result, they are beating their competitor by the wide margin. A big concern in the earnings report, that Netflix mentioned was the increase in competition, which, Amazon Prime is jumping into the space, Apple, YouTube, Disney Plus, Hulu, the list go on and on. So the streaming business is moving faster than ever, and there are more and more competitors over time. But keep in mind that entertainment is a big market. So it's a really hard market to think about one player take all. It's not going to be one of those markets that, one player is going to take over the whole market. I think it's a big enough market that multiple companies can find their little piece of the pie within the market. And Netflix is doing just that. So the total, what Netflix did was $1.6 billion in free cash flow. And the stock-based compensation was $500 million. So effectively, it was $1.1 billion in free cash flow. That for Netflix, extremely impressive. And I can't wait to hear more about Netflix. Another companies that I thought was interesting was Microsoft, Apple, and MasterCard. Microsoft was a big topic this past few quarters because of ChatGPT, AI, and their investment in OpenAI and how they own 50%. It's a big topic. They were a very trendy company, and what you will hear is that very interesting. If you tune into CEO of Microsoft, you will always hear that they will never talk about or MasterCard. They will never talk about the monopolistic nature of their business. In their earnings report, they always talk about, we have increasing competition and that it's hard to do their business, their profit margin is suffering, whatever it is, right? They did that on purpose, by definition. These are monopolists. These are basically monopoly company. But in the earnings report, they always talk about their increased competition, they're struggling, it's a harder market to be in because they understood that their biggest problem, their biggest obstacle are legislation. So the last thing they want is to tell the government that I am a monopoly. So they always want to talk about that, how, okay, we are facing competition, it's hard to do our business. So this is the consistency you will hear from Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, MasterCard, all these monopoly-based companies, they're always talking about competitions. So what you will see consistently is that companies with the strongest market position will always try to downplay their companies in their earnings report. But companies with the less strong market position will need to upsell the companies. So for example, if you're a consistency is that if you're a monopoly-based company, you are trying to downsell your own companies. But if you are a up-and-coming, not a monopoly-based company, you're facing a lot of competition, you as a CEO will try to upsell your companies in this earnings report. And that's why Nadella, which is a CEO of Microsoft, spoke so lowly of Microsoft. Another interesting company I want to talk about is MasterCard. MasterCard is such an incredible business that their stock price barely dipped over the year. If you look at MasterCard's over the past 10 years, barely dipped. You know, their companies has been an upward trajectory. It's an incredible business. And the company, you know, they're basically a duopoly with Visa. So they own the whole, you know, financing market. And their business requires very little capex, so they don't need to invest a lot into infrastructure like Amazon. Like they don't need to be like Amazon that, in order to serve more customer, I need more warehouse, need more trucks, need more airplanes. MasterCard is different. MasterCard basically need little to no capex into the business. So if you look into the past 10 years, whenever their stock price has fallen, MasterCard always, and I mean always, buy back their shares aggressively because they know that they have cracked the industry business. So their job is to do whatever it takes to make shareholders happy. And as I mentioned from the episode before, buy back shares when your PE is quite low and you have a very liquid free cash flow every single year, makes it a very good strategy to buy back your shares to make shareholder happy. Last year alone, they bought back over 7 million of shares for $2.4 billion and gave out $500,000 in dividends. So they are in the business that really want to make its shareholders happy. Let's talk about a company that is actually struggling. Intel. You know, Intel has been a very, very sad company now. Like very, very sad. And they feel bad for it because Intel used to own the world. Intel used to be a revolutionary company. The revenue is down 30% year to year. So the revenue is basically back to where it was 10 years ago. Their free cash flow plummeted with some quarter hitting the negatives. It's very, very sad to see. You know, Apple basically killed this company. So for those of you who might not know, Apple and Intel used to be in this partnership, long-term partnership for the longest time where Intel provide Apple the chips. And Apple was one of the biggest clients for Intel. And we all knew what happened. Apple killed them by making their own chips. So right now, Apples are doing their own bionic chips and Intel is no longer a vendor of theirs. And the stock-based compensation, this basically almost killed the business. Because of low free cash flow of Intel, they're forced to give out stock-based compensation, and which leads to a further dilution of their stocks. So the shareholders aren't very happy. At the same time, capex for Intel shot up $4 billion in the past 5 years because of heavy R&D. So they're working very hard to create new products that will win the market back. But overall, you know, Intel is in a very, very sad situation. It's come to show that, you know, if you a company that has a very great client, you should not be relying on this client to be with you forever. The moment to disrupt yourself is when everything is still going amazing. So that is something that we can learn from Intel. But overall, it's a very, very sad company right now. Lastly, I want to talk about Warren Buffett. You know, Berkshire Hathaway recently announced, display their portfolio, and what we saw is that now they own 42% of the portfolio. It's Apple. So 42% of Berkshire Hathaway are basically Apple stocks, and the closest second was Bank of America at 10%. 42% of Berkshire Hathaway is Apple. You know, that really shows how much Warren Buffett and Charles Munger love Apple as a company. And if you look at the list of Berkshire Hathaway stocks, you can tell that Warren Buffett really, really, really loves Monopoly. He loves Monopoly with a high, very, very high profitability and free cash flow. I mean, he talks about a lot about this thing called the moat. It's something like a very high barrier of entry that is very hard for a competitor to come into to do the same business, to compete with that business. So that's what Warren Buffett likes. He likes companies that are very, very monopolistic. He likes very high profitability. He loves free cash flow, and he loves this thing called the moat. So Warren Buffett really likes companies that are like, like towaway, like something along the line of like cars just lining up in a tow. Do you have to pay the tow with no choice? He loves companies like that. Companies that can collect fees without efforts. Example of these companies: MasterCard, Visa, American Express, TSM, and Apple, of course. So these are the companies that can collect fees. Fees would just come in with no effort. He loves companies like that. And Apple is a great example because they collect 30% of the in-store purchase, which is basically they're no longer a product business. They're turning into a software business nowadays. So that's what makes Warren Buffett loves them so much. I give them 42% of Berkshire Hathaway. And that's it, is the CK breakdown of last year's earnings.